Well, welcome, beauties. I am here with another special guest. We have Mary Abe here today. Mary is a health and life coach who focuses on supporting moms through any stage of motherhood. Now, don't we all need a little support? If you are a mama, we all need it. She offers a holistic approach by looking at various aspects of a mother's life, self, mindset, food, movement, and all the things in between. And she provides unbiased information and guidance based on your wants and needs, not what the world wants for you, but what are your wants and needs. And I love how she really highlights that in her practice. Mary is also an athlete, an avid outdoorsman. She's kind of an IT nerd, which is awesome. I love when we can phrase that about ourselves. She's a wife and a mom to a 5-year-old, and she has a little bun in the oven. Today, she's going to be sharing her story with us, and I love hearing people's stories. I think there's so much value in the power of our story, but today Mary's going to share how she was able to take some really brick wall moments of her life, and how she was able to take that and learn from it, and how she was able to really just kind of focus more on the important things, the organizing the stress and the anxieties and time management, learning how to have patience, which I never like to pray about patience because it always tests me. And then my horns pop out, my tail starts whipping around. It's not a good sight. But she is really going to highlight and share with us how just loving yourself and showering on yourself, that compassion, and how you can take back your power when you can flip that adversity and take it back and take inventory of all the things that are going on, and how you can put the priorities in order. So I'm going to give Mary the floor and let her share her story with us, and how she has taken that adversity and those challenges and been able to now use it for purpose, and give back to the communities that she is building to really empower mothers and to love on themselves. So Mary, what brought you into this space, and what was your biggest motivator of basically coaching moms?
Right. So I guess it kind of all started probably about, I think probably 7 years ago now. My husband and I had just gotten married, and as you do when you get married, you start to try to have kids. And so we found out that we were pregnant. And so we were super excited. I've always wanted to be a mom. So we were super excited. I was about 4 months pregnant when I got a phone call from my husband that he had been in a work accident. So he was a mechanic, and the airbag, he was working on a car, and the airbag deployed on him when it wasn't supposed to. The car was not connected to anything, so we're not even sure how it happened, but it kind of knocked him out a little bit. And so I had to deal with that when I was 4 months pregnant. so going through all of that kind of added a little bit of extra stress to the situation, kind of unexpected things as well. So that's kind of what first started. And then being thrown into motherhood for my first child. There's no user's manual for being a mom. So having to deal with a newborn and all of that, while also kind of trying to care for my husband and making sure that he gets to his doctor's appointments and all of that stuff. So the stress was high, to say the least. So having to kind of just get thrown into that, I was lucky that I had a good kind of mental stability and kind of things like that, and always looked kind of on the positive side before this happened, because otherwise I don't know how we would have made it through. But being tossed into that situation still made me kind of reevaluate everything. I had to relearn how to keep our schedules going. I had all of a sudden had to keep doctor's appointments for 2 different people set together, well, 3 including myself, but keeping doctor's appointments, scheduling, meal planning, stress, patience, as you said, all of that just kind of instantaneously was all thrown at me. So I had to adapt. I had to learn how to deal with those things, how to overcome the challenges of a screaming newborn and a husband who at that time couldn't really help with anything. I had to kind of do most of it on my own. So having to find my own avenues and doing research on things that can help me to calm down, and making sure that even though I do have to care for this newborn and my husband, that I still needed care too. So being able to take a couple of minutes to myself, or looking for help outside with grandma and grandpa or friends that could watch my son for a couple of hours so I could sit and do nothing essentially, or take a shower.
Yeah, shower. That's a commodity, isn't it? When you're
Right. Or you learn little tricks. Like for a long time I had my stroller for my son. Well, the stroller came in the bathroom with me and he would sit in the stroller. I could see him from the shower, I could still interact with him, but I still got my 15 minutes or whatever it was to shower. And you'd be surprised how taking a shower and being able to wash your hair even just re-energizes you and gives you that little bit. But going through all of that, just and then talking with other moms as well, kind of made me see that not all moms know all of that stuff or have those resources or the ability to go out and research stuff and learn stuff on their own. And then especially when the pandemic hit, that added an extra layer of stress. So even moms with moms that are pregnant, all of a sudden their husbands can't go to appointments anymore, so they're going into appointments alone by themselves, or they're having to wear a mask while they're in labor, or all sorts of things. I even saw a couple moms who had to go through labor completely by themselves. It was them and one nurse, that was it. So that adds a lot of stress as well. And then over here, at least in the US, there's not a lot of support for after pregnancy. During pregnancy, your doctors check on you every 4 weeks, and then every 2 weeks, and then every week. But then after that, it's you have one follow-up, and then it's good luck, bye. So there's not really a lot of support for moms after that. They can find mom groups and things like that, but they have to go find them on their own. And even then, it's not necessarily support that is true or things like that. It's just a bunch of moms getting together. So me having kind of the experience of going through what I did, having to learn all of the stuff through pregnancy, being pregnant, not having much support, dealing with all of that, now being pregnant again, having to deal with all of the things that my son is now going through, being in the pandemic, going to school. So I have kind of both angles of a mom already, and then also from the pregnancy side, before and after pregnancy. So I just wanted to kind of start this business to be there for those moms and help them. And I also have a background in athletics, like you were saying. I played college soccer, and then I coached soccer. So I decided to just continue, and I got certified to be a personal trainer. So those moms who are out there who kind of feel like they lost themselves, because that's one thing too, is especially with dealing with my husband and my son, I kind of went, well, yes, I get a shower every now and then, but that's all I get to do. So
what on the back burner a lot of the time,
right,
to take care
yeah,
of others, even
right,
and dealing with what yours was, they still have needs.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, and a lot of moms say that they've like lost themselves. They don't know who they are anymore. They're just mom, and that's all they know how to be. They miss who they were before pregnancy. Yes. But you can find who you are, and that's kind of what I have gone to do, is going through all of that kind of helped me to expand who I am, who I was before pregnancy. Still there. I still do sports as best I can. Had to stop when I got pregnant, but I still work out all the time. I still take my son to the park. We play baseball. We still do things that I enjoy doing. I've even found some things that I enjoy doing that I would have never tried before. So you kind of grow and you expand and you adapt and you learn. So just because who you were exactly before pregnancy isn't there, that doesn't mean that you as a person and you as a core being isn't still there. You just have to adapt and grow into who you're meant to be. And now part of that title is mom. But you're still there. You're just adding to your credentials list.
That's true. That's so true. I know that there was a season, I've been married 18 years and I have two kids. One's 16 going on 17 and the other one's almost 25. So I know that there was a big chunk of being mom where I was just Mike's wife. And
Mm-hmm.
so Victoria's mom or Caleb's mom, like, and it's like, okay, I do have a name and
Right.
I have passions of my own. I know they haven't surfaced for a very long time.
Exactly.
But we do, as women, we typically will put our own needs or wants aside to take care of everybody else, including our communities, our neighbors, our friends, our sisters, brothers, whomever.
Mm-hmm.
And we're constantly giving of ourselves to everybody else except for ourselves. And
Exactly.
I love how you can actually bring that awareness piece, be like, no, 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 you're still in there. You still have desires and passions and purpose on your life. And there's no need or no time necessarily to put that aside. We need to invest in ourselves. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
it could be catastrophic. Like I've heard some horrific stories where families are shattered to pieces because mom has lost themselves and they think that the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. So they start exploring instead of
Right.
just nurturing themselves in the environment that they're in.
Right.
I know that's extremely out there and a little bit of an negative Nelly kind of.
Well, I mean that's kind of what moms have, what moms go through and what happens because they don't feel supported by their families all the time. I'm lucky enough that my husband has healed and is better and doing good and is supportive of me. But not all moms have that. Some moms always either their husband's off playing video games, which mine does as well, but they're always playing video games or they're always on their phone or they're just coming home from work and they don't want to do anything. And so they feel like they're being unsupported. And there are ways that you can kind of communicate that with your husband or your partner, and also things that you can do for yourself that don't take a lot of time, surprisingly, that actually help a lot. And I know once you're kind of getting into that thought process and that thought stream, your mind is trained to go to the easiest path. And so once you kind of get those thought patterns in your head, it's easier for your brain to say, oh, I've thought this before. I know what the answer is. When really it's, you want a more positive thought process and answer, but it's a little harder to get your mind to go to that positive when so many times it's already thought of the negative. So that's kind of what I help my moms with. And like you mentioned, we look at those different areas because nutrition is a big important part of it as well. Exercise helps a lot. And then also like your mindset. And then of course yourself. You have to be confident in yourself in order to be able to kind of share that with those around you. Because if your children, especially if they always see that you're being negative or you're yelling or whatever it may be, then they start to think, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. And then they start in those patterns. And then partially they start doing it and then you get mad at them. Why are you yelling at me? Well, because you yelled at them before.
Yeah, we don't want to hear that, right? Like, and then you're like, stop being such a sassy pants. But meanwhile, they're just being truthful, and they are our best mirror of
Right.
ourselves.
Yeah, it's always fun when you use something, you have a statement that you use, and then a couple weeks later, that same statement comes back from them, and you're like, wait, what? Oh, shoot,
My
me.
bad. I need to put stuff in my mouth when I'm on the road. No, it's totally, that is so true. And having the nutrition and the fitness, especially for moms, new moms, because that postpartum can really kick us below the belt. And
Yes,
then we get into it's a quick spiral to a very dark place. And
exactly.
it's really hard to pull ourselves back out, especially if we aren't feeling supported by our loved ones.
Right.
So tell me kind of how navigating, how long did it take for your husband to heal, for one? Like, how long were you in that journey?
So it was probably about 5 years.
Wow.
So
Since then.
yeah, so he started to heal like physically and all of that decently quick. It took us probably about 2 years, I'd say 2 to 3 years to do that. And then we had to work on the rest of it and everything else to kind of go with that, because he had been down and out for about 2 to 3 years. So he had to readjust to everything and being back at work and going to work again and doing all of that. So it was a long process, but being able to support him through that was what he needed at the time. And luckily I was able to do that for him so that he could get through it. And now we can move on and be where we are now.
Oh, it's so good. And like, he did not waste any time. I'm well, let's get busy making more babies.
Exactly. Yep.
That is awesome. So in that stint of time, because that could feel like an eternity when you're in it. So what kinds of things did you find the most valuable and supportive as you were nurturing yourself in that season?
Sure. So, like I said, I think the main thing for me was, like you said, I'm an athlete. So I played soccer through college, coached soccer. We moved. I found the nearest co-ed league and started playing right away. But then when I got pregnant, I had to stop. So I think one of the things was being able to get back into something that I remembered as being me, like I said. So I got to go into just some indoor games, not very long or anything like that, just getting out, even just taking my son to the park to kick the ball around. Just the kind of things like that. Also, just learning new things. My son's birthdays and things like that, I was like, well, let me try to bake a cake. So I'd bake a cake and had fun doing it. So I'd try to do a little bit more fancy one the next time and things like that. And then also just helping my son to learn things, trying to teach him. I figured I like to be crafty. So we would come up with a bunch of crafts and things that I could do with my son still, so he could be learning, but I could be having fun and enjoying things. So just kind of looking at things in a different way too, versus just, oh, I have to teach my son how to do something, finding a fun way to teach him, or finding a little bit of how I can insert something that I like to do with something that he likes to do. So he likes to go to the park. He could go play on the playground. I could take my soccer ball and just kind of kick it around on my own a little bit. And then another thing that also helped was kind of trying to put myself in their shoes. So especially with my husband, he wasn't able to do a lot. So he would get frustrated really easily, but put myself in his shoes, I would get really frustrated if I couldn't do a lot of things on my own either. So it's understandable. So just having that kind of understanding of what they're thinking and what they're going through and what they're seeing from their side helps you to have that little bit more patience and understanding and kind of knowing how you can help to to make it a little better. So doing those kinds of things too.
That would have been so hard on your husband, having a brand new baby, you're newlywed still, like
Yeah.
infancy stages of your marriage and wanting to grow and not being able to provide for your family. That alone would really pull a man down into a really dark space mentally.
Right.
And
Right.
the physical elements that he was restricted on, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I could see that being a very dark season for your husband, and he is one blessed man to have married a great woman. Not too many of us would be like, oh, I'm like, dude, okay, it's been 12 months, suck it up. No, I'm not that bad, but but there's a time, like, it's so hard for our men because they are wired to provide and to nurture, or not so much nurturing is kind of our gig, but to keep us safe and supported. And if they get backed up against the wall, that emotional need that he would have been relying on from you, like drawing from you, would have emptied your tank really quickly. Not to
Mm-hmm.
the needs of a newborn.
Right.
24/7, I could just see your tank being completely dry. So
Right.
that would have been an extremely challenging time. So good on you for having that intuition of wanting to just dive in and find things that are going to support you in your mental health, and
Right.
time for a shower.
Exactly. Yeah. You can get real creative when you need to.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love how you found some new things and new passions and desires
Mm-hmm.
that you probably would never have tapped into without having a little baby at toe, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Because before I would never bake. I'd never cook. None of that. But then it's kind of thrown it. Well, now you have to. And I was like, oh, well, it's not that bad. I kind of like doing that. So,
Yeah, it's fun creating in different ways, right?
yeah. And like I said, you adapt to things and you learn new things about yourself and things that work, things that don't work. But the things that don't work, you don't just go, oh, crud, that didn't work. What am I going to do now? You kind of go, okay, that didn't work. Let's see why that didn't work. And then adjust it, try again. Okay, did that one work? A little bit better. Adjust again and try again. So you just gotta keep going, keep pushing through. And like I said, when you kind of start to see those thoughts, those thought patterns come up, you have to adjust them, and you have to be aware of how you adjust them and things like that. Because a lot of times our thoughts are so automatic that we don't even realize sometimes what we're thinking or what we're doing. We know we thought it, but we didn't realize that we were thinking it, if that makes sense.
Entertaining it longer than we
Right.
should have, right? Because
Right.
us women, we are creatives. We can have over 40,000 thoughts in a day. Like, that just blows my mind when I heard that stat. I'm like, what do we do with all those thoughts? Like, that's a lot of thinking.
Right.
But literally it happens. And I want to just kind of focus a little bit on the space where a mom feels unappreciated. Because
Mhm.
I'm sure even as you were nurturing your husband with this new baby, with not a lot of extra support, I'm sure that feeling, probably that thought of like, I'm not appreciated, like no one recognizes all that I'm doing. I'm stretched to the max. I do A, B, and C, and it's hard for me to do all these things, and nobody's even acknowledging that I am stretched to the max and doing all these things. Is that a space that you found yourself kicking that unappreciative enter that thought around for quite some time at all during this journey?
Well, towards the when it first happened and all of that, no, not really. I was more in this is our situation, we deal with it, we get it done.
Yeah.
So so that there was no anything like that. It was just, what do we got to do now? Where do we got to be? Get it done.
To the rescue.
Exactly. Exactly. So not so much at the beginning, but as things kind of progressed on, like you were saying, it wears on you after a while. So yeah, that did kind of come up. But then again, a lot of the times that I would feel that way, it was because of something else that wasn't really feeling necessarily unsupported. There was something else behind it.
Okay.
So if it was that, like, for example, like my husband would come home from work and just want to sit down and not do anything. And I'd been taking care of our son all day. And I'm like, okay, mom needs a break.
I haven't sat down all day.
Right. So I was like, okay, do you not care, or what's going on here? But it wasn't really that I felt unsupported. It was that I was tired. So just kind of adjusting how I handled things and when I would go to bed, and looking at my time for going to bed. Okay, well, my son goes to bed at this time. Why did I go to bed 4 hours later? Oh, well, maybe I was scrolling a little too much, or I was going to do the dishes, but then I got distracted cleaning the closet. Did the closet really need to be cleaned? No, not really. So kind of looking at those aspects of things, because I knew my husband cared. He was exhausted from coming home from work. So it's understandable that he wants to take 20 minutes or 30 minutes to just sit there himself, when there's time that I can use to do that I actually wasted myself. So kind of looking at those types of things, either that or did I not eat today? Yeah, that's happened a few times.
Cereals off the kids' plate.
Right. So am I snapping back at him because I'm really angry at him, or is it because, oh yeah, for lunch I had a bagel and that's all I ate today? That kind of a thing, kind of checking, why don't I have as much patience as I normally would? And kind of looking and evaluating things. Now, yes, there's sometimes when my husband was just being annoying and I would get angry at him. That happens. But a lot of the times there was something else behind it. Also, too, kind of looking at his side of things again. Is he snapping at me because he's really angry at me, or because something happened at work, or because he didn't get his break and so he didn't get to eat? Or is he anxious because something is coming up at work? Those kinds of things, kind of evaluating the whole situation, not just that statement or that second that happened.
I love it.
Looking at the big picture.
Yeah, we have to take inventory of the big picture, because we can jump to a conclusion all we want, but until you have all the variables,
Right.
really navigate through or shift through. I actually had to apologize to my husband over the holiday because I had noticed myself getting short and snippy, and because I was exhausted, even though I was on holidays, and I was still able to find some time to balance like some relaxation and spending time with him, and still getting some things done. But having a teenager back in the house, he just locked himself up in the room. So then as a mom, we're like, what is he doing in his room? Is he depressed? Is he da 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 da? So all my thoughts just like went scaly. And so that actually pulls a lot of energy from us when we get stuck in those rabbit holes. And obviously over the holidays, I wasn't eating my best self. I wasn't my best self. I wasn't my best self. I was probably
thing, right?
So I'm like, okay, I had noticed I was pushing him away, and I was getting snippy, and I was short, and I was very like, my fuse was like, don't you dare say the wrong thing or I'm gonna take your head off.
Right.
So I had to pull back. I'm like, you know what? I have to apologize, babe. And sometimes that's the hardest thing for us to do, is to really own our junk. Because it's easier for us to like, well, you like, it's all your fault that I'm this way.
Right.
So we have to own our own stuff. And we do have to apologize. And because it speaks volumes to them too, because even though I was snippy, he did not snip back. And typically in past years or months, weeks. When you get like that, he will snip back and then it causes a war between the two of us. But
Mhm.
he actually took the high road this round and he would just keep his mouth quiet. He was still nurturing. He was still trying to not, I guess he was walking on some eggshells because I was like a hot. And I had noticed that and I was like, babe, I'm sorry. Like I have been short. There's no excuse for it. But I do have a whole handful of excuses I could give you right now as to
Right.
why
We have them all there. They're ready to go.
and my period's coming. I've been eating all this sugar, like my teeth, right? Like I could list a whole stack of things, but
Right.
really no excuse for it. I should be better. And I at least am recognizing my part in our disconnect right now. And I truly apologize. And he was just like, thank you. That we didn't even have to have a further deeper discussion about it. He just accepted my apology and the fact that I had recognized my junk and we were able to move past it. So it
Right.
is important to take that inventory.
Yeah, and two, sometimes like with my husband, he would either say something or do something, and I was thinking, oh, well, that means he's mad at me or he's angry or why did he do that and things like that. And then he was thinking the exact opposite of, oh, I did this to help you. I was trying to help you do this, or this was my thought process. I'm like, oh, well, had I known that, I wouldn't have been angry for those 5 hours or whatever it was.
Right. And it brought
So kind of looking at things from both sides of, is he doing this because he thinks it'll help me, and it would have helped me if he'd done it a little bit differently, things like that, because that's kind of the changes that we had to make. Is he'll do something and try to help, whether it's for making dinner or doing the dishes or things like that, and I go, why did you do that? You're just making it more difficult for me. But he was trying to help. He just
yeah.
didn't realize that I had a different system or I do things a little differently, or I have a habit that I do things in.
Yeah, you put
So
all the spoons in this one, all the forks in this one. When you mess it
right.
up, you're just making it harder for me to put it away.
Right. So having those kind of conversations with them of, and not just jumping to the lashing out at them, but saying, hey, did you realize that this happened? Or did you notice that this happened? Or did you realize that you were being snippy with me? Because sometimes they don't realize it. They're just thinking about something else, and you asked them a question and they were mad about the other thought they thought, so they just jumped on you or had a tone with you that you picked up as being angry, but really they were just answering your question. They were just also, they took the tone from that thought and came out their mouths to answer your question. So just kind of being patient and saying, did you realize that you were doing that? Or did you realize if you did it this way, it would help me a lot more? Or just having those kind of conversations and those thoughts too helps quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
To parent with our children, because even over the holidays, our 16-year-old's home, and there's a lot of pressure and a lot of temptations for our young people today. And as I was sharing with you prior, and I was like, God has a way of just revealing stuff to us with our kids. And so I'm like, oh honey, what about this? And I would bring things to his awareness. He said, why are you snooping through my stuff? I'm like, I'm not. I'm in here helping you fold your laundry, and these things are presenting themselves to me. Like I am not looking for them.
Right.
And now that they are in front of me, we are going to have a discussion.
Right.
So it's a matter of like, it's typically my past self, before I have came into this evolving human that I have become, I would lose it and I would jump to the darkest. And sometimes I find myself still falling into this trap. It's like I jump to the worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And I get stuck in that space and I get scared, and I because I have had so much trauma in my past that I jump to that worst case scenario, and then I escalate it to rejection, abandonment, death, like all the things.
Yep.
And it can be extremely dark and really paralyzing, but I've had to like, no, I need to speak life over this. I'm being given an opportunity to grow from this just as much as my child is. So how are we going to grow in this circumstance together without us like bashing heads and then causing that huge divide? Because that happens in parenting.
Right.
Is that if we don't learn how to communicate is so key with our spouse as we're raising, being on the same page on parenting, on dealing with the stresses of life, because every day there's something as adults, as we adulting in life,
Right.
there is always a stress to be had. So learning how to navigate those things as a partnership with your spouse, as well as learning how to communicate on our expectations, our boundaries, our different things on how we want our house to run and what our expectations are on our children as they grow into these different seasons of their own journey of life. Communication's the foundation of it all. It really is.
Yeah.
Important.
Yeah. And like my husband was saying to one of his friends who just recently had a child, his friend's like, man, I'm so anxious about this. And he's like, yep, children will definitely bring out any anxieties that you had. They'll bring it out in you.
Yeah.
So, and then especially with moms too, in pregnancy, even if you didn't necessarily have anxiety before that, you can still develop anxiety because you can't necessarily see baby all the time. You start to feel baby, but you can't see them all the time. So you wonder, are they okay? Are they still moving? Did I lay wrong? Did I eat something wrong? There's just so many things that are out there. And especially if you go and start to Google things on your own, you can definitely find a bad situation for anything.
Absolutely everything.
So kind of having all of that anxiety building and everything like that, having ways to cope with it and to deal with it and to just take a breath and relax and everything's going to be okay. There's nothing showing me that anything's wrong. There's no symptoms that anything's wrong. So until somebody tells me something's wrong, there's nothing wrong.
Right. Dr. Google can really just play with a mama's brain.
Oh, yes. Especially with pregnancy and can I eat this and can I eat that? Can I lay like this? Can I lay like that? Can I do this exercise? Oh, I shouldn't have lifted that much weight. It just depends on each person individually on a lot of that stuff. So having all of that going through their minds along with everything else can definitely add up if they don't have any tools to kind of work with it.
Yeah. Well, good on you for filling up your toolbox, how to navigate, help, and supporting your husband through his healing journey as being a new mom, and still you're still in that infancy stage of motherhood because your youngest or your oldest now is just coming to school age years.
Yeah.
In our day and age is a whole nother level of stress.
Yep.
How to ensure that your kid's safe and all the things. And then now having another bambino in the oven and hormones and all those things that are now transpiring again. I have to say that you should have got a Superman's cape for Christmas. I sure hope you got something like that. Remarkable what you have been able to accomplish and still keep a good head on your shoulders and taking what you've learned and now giving it back to your communities is absolutely priceless.
Thank you.
Good on you. And on that note, how do people get in touch with you if they're like, yeah, I totally need some help and some support on how to get my thoughts in order and how to take some time back for myself and how do I navigate new passions? Like, how do I dabble in something I've never done before and learn that I even like to bake a cake? Like, how do someone get in touch with you, and how do they, what kind of things do you have to offer, and how would you work with somebody if they wanted to jump on the wagon with you?
Sure. So the name of the company is Moms Being Well. So it focuses on moms being well. I have a website that you can go to, momsbeingwell.com. You can also find me on Facebook or Instagram, also mom's being well, just make it easy for you.
So good.
But you can also call. I have a phone number. It's 833-666-2935, which if you look at the letters, it's Mom Be Well. So
Good. So good.
trying to make it easy for everybody. But I do offer free consultations and kind of health assessments is what I call them, where we just get on a call, video or phone. It's up to the person, where we just have a chat, see what your situation is, what you're trying to do, things like that, and see if it's something that I feel I could help you with, and see if you feel comfortable talking with me. Just gives you a chance to ask any questions that you may have, either about me or how I coach or anything like that, and just see if it's a fit. If it's not a fit, no problem. I also have kind of other coaches and things like that that I can refer out to if we need to. But it's just a kind of relaxed chat that we can have and see if it's something you'd be interested in. If you are interested, I do have 2 programs are my main thing that I offer. One is specifically for pregnancy. The other one is for any mom, pregnancy or having teenagers as yourself, toddlers, grown-ups that are out of the house even, but still stressing you out. That works too.
Yeah.
But the pregnancy one kind of helps you to get in the mode of being a mom, kind of get your head wrapped around that. Because as I said, being pregnant gives you a lot of anxiety in itself, and wondering, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Am I going to be able to handle it? All of that stuff. Right. And then on the other end, there's also a lot of what I talk with moms about is going through labor and preparing for labor. Because it's a lot of, I don't know what my options are. What if this happens? What if that happens? A lot of uncertainty around labor that causes anxiety in itself, and which can then cause labor to actually be more difficult the more anxious you are about it. So kind of going through that too, and helping with that. And then just a little bit of preparing for once baby gets there, whether it's tips and tricks on things that you can do, like bringing the stroller into the bathroom with you so you can shower, things like that, or just whatever they're kind of worried about or questioning, things like that. It's a 12-week program, because the longer I can kind of work with you, we can kind of break through some of those anxiety and thought patterns and things like that, as well as looking at your, like I was saying before, your movement, your nutrition, all of that kind of thing. It gives me a chance to work with you through that, because me just telling you, oh, well, don't think that negatively, change it to positive. Okay, good luck. That doesn't really work too well.
Yeah,
Right.
it's so true. Like, do as I say, not as I do, right? Like, it's just like,
Right.
we can, but that it's practice. It's not something that's gonna, and I think that's what people get overwhelmed by, is that, oh yeah, Mary's got it all together. She's like done the work. She's like got this nailed out of the park, but it didn't happen for you overnight like that.
Right.
It's consistency, and it's like,
Right.
and
And it's having that support there to, when you say, oh, I thought about that. Oh, but I'm going to be talking to Mary soon. I should probably change that so that when I talk to her,
so good.
kind of
So you can have
having that accountability, right? And knowing that there's someone there that can help you and be there for you. So that's why I like to do 12 weeks. And so with that as well, I have, it's called the Voxer app. So between sessions, you can leave me a voice message, you can send me a text message, things like that. And I'll get back to you and kind of respond. Or if something comes up that you're like, oh, I want to address this, you can send it to me right away so you don't forget. Because mom brain is also a thing.
It is. And you can be like locked up in your pantry and with your hand in the cookie jar being like, Mary,
Exactly.
I couldn't crack open this wine. Like, I need you.
Right. Right.
So good that you offer that additional support. That is so awesome. I love it.
So having those two kind of avenues, and along that 12-week allows for some good habits to be put in place and some changes to happen. So if you're just finding out you're pregnant, great. If you're in the middle of your pregnancy, great. If you're towards the end, that's fine too. It doesn't matter where you are in your journey. It's like I kind of say, it's your journey. I just kind of help you find your path. So I'm just there to support you. I give you some, if you ask me a question, I will give you what my thoughts are on it. I can give you unbiased opinions. So if you say you want a cesarean section, that's fine. We'll work towards that. If you want a natural birth, okay, we'll work towards that. If you want an epidural, that's fine too. It's whatever you want and you feel comfortable with, because when you're feeling comfortable with things, then it's going to go better than if someone else tells you what you should feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with the other program. I call it my Mommy and Me program. So it helps you to find and love yourself both as mommy and as me. So we kind of, again, you get that free consultation. You can just chat with me, see kind of what's on your mind, what are you trying to achieve. If you have any questions for me or how I do things, that's fine too. And then we go through each of those different pillars, if you want to say that, starting with self. How do you feel about yourself? Are you down talking yourself? Are you negative talking yourself? That kind of thing, which leads into mindset of where is your mindset? Is it constantly going negative? It's sometimes negative, sometimes positive, that kind of thing. And then touching on food, are you getting enough nutrition? Are you eating mostly your kids' candy that you bought at the store? That kind of thing. And then movement as well, because exercise, a lot of people think, oh, I don't want to go exercise. I hate exercising. But it's
for a lot of years.
It doesn't have to be, yeah, it doesn't have to be hard. It can be going for a walk. It can be playing with your kid at the park. It can be doing some gardening. It's
a little dance party. I used to do that when my
exactly.
kids were younger. We'd throw music on and then we'd all just dance around and
Right.
that.
Yeah, exactly. And we even have video games now that are working out video games. So you can definitely find a way to make movement fun and change it from something like, oh, I have to work out today, to being, oh, when do I get to work out today?
Yes.
So kind of having all of those. And again, that one is a 12-week program as well, because again, me just saying, well, go eat more apples, that's not going to help anything when you're in the kitchen going, apple, chocolate chip cookie. I think I want the chocolate chip cookie
will win every time.
Right.
Unless that apple is dipped in like cinnamon and sugar and whipped cream.
Right. Yeah. But, and then also too, knowing it's okay to have a cookie every now and then. You don't have to say, I can never have another cookie. That's right. It's the thoughts that you have behind when you eat that cookie, what happens.
Yes.
Because if you eat it and you're going, oh, I shouldn't be eating this. Oh, I'm going to be fat when I'm done. Oh, why did I eat this cookie? Oh man. And that's going to be worse than if you're like, oh, a cookie. I'm going to eat a cookie. I want a cookie right now. I'm going to eat it. Okay, let's move on.
In my experience in the past, on that thought, if I'm just like, oh, I get to, like, I can if I want to, if I don't, whatever. But when I'm in that strength of myself, I do feel more empowered with who I am. If I'm in that other dark place and I go to reach for the cookie and I have that guilt that I pile on myself for having the cookie, it never ends with just one cookie. Because that guilt will catapult into the whole row. And then the next thing you know, we're hiding the bag of cookies under our bed so we can eat them in the middle of the night.
Right. Right.
It never just ends with the one cookie when we pile that guilt on ourselves, because then we end up trying to comfort ourselves with more cookies, and it ends up a wicked downward spiral.
Right. And that's where having those different kind of tools, as I call them, that you can use to acknowledge or realize, oh, I'm not in the right mindset for this. How do I get out of it? Having different options too, because not the same trick works for everybody. Different tricks work for different people. So you have to kind of try it and say, well, that didn't work at all. I still ate 12 cookies. And then let's try something else. So we try different things, and we keep working and we keep adapting and keep changing things until we find something that works for the individual, because each mom is different. She's her own person, as we've been trying to say this whole time.
Different stresses.
Right.
Has to deal with helping a husband heal either, right? Like
Right.
we all have different stresses in our life, whether it be relational, financial, whatever. So it definitely, every person has a different equation. It's not a one size fits all
Exactly.
process. So I love how you can really get to know the person and share some tools and some different things, and allow them to navigate and try things on for size and see if they fit, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely.
until you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
So you
Right.
didn't know you like to bake. So there's
Right.
that.
Exactly.
So good. So good.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Mary. I will make sure to put your website, momsbewell.com, here in this video, along with your other contact and social media handles.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for offering these consultations and get to the meet and greets with the community members. And there is some different things happening within the space with focus groups and different things like that. So it'd be awesome if that it all gets you excited to want to come and serve on a deeper level here within the Beautiful You community. You just let me know, and we can get you plugged into a mom's group.
Perfect.
So I'm sure all of us are like, yes, please.
Oh, and I did want to mention one other thing is, when you go to sign up for that free consultation, there is a place to say, how did you hear of me? And if you put that you're a Beautiful You community member, I will give you 20% off on the programs. So yeah, so go ahead and just fill that part in, that you saw me on Beautiful You and you're a Beautiful You community member, and I'll give you that 20% off.
Oh, Mary, that's such a nice gift. Thank you so much for offering that. You're such a blessing. On that note, definitely go book your free consultation with Mary and see what she can do to help get you through this season of whatever season of motherhood you're in.
Right.
If you are expecting in this new year, as Mary is, we want to congratulate you, and we do hope the best, the most health and vibrancy and the best birthing experience possible. All the good things. So thank you once again, Mary, for coming and sharing your time with us today.
Oh, of course. Thank you for having me.